This is what 3 broken arms taught me over 14 years of motocross racing. So one of the funny things is 2 of those broken arms weren't even while I was racing. So the first broken arm I had was when I was playing football. So I used to play AFL football when I was, I don't know how old I would have been, maybe 8, 9 years old. I played for 2 years. And so this is while I was racing. So I was playing football and racing. And I was at training during the week, and we were just mucking around before. We used to kick the football at goal before we'd go and do the training sessions. And I got pushed over or bumped and fell over and put my arm out and broke it. So it was I got through part of the training session at the start. We were doing like handball drills, and I was like, geez, this is like killing me. And then I remember I just broke down crying in the middle of the whole training session because I was in so much pain, but I was still trying to get through the training session with all the other guys. So that was the first one, and then that's when I quit football because I missed out on one of the state rounds for motocross, and motocross was more important. The second broken arm I had was an interesting one, and it was quite a bad one. So I had my radius and my ulnar, which are these 2 main bones that run in your arm, literally snap like that. And so you could see it, my arm would go like, I went like that. So what happened is I was at a motocross track and we were practicing. So it's a little bit different back then. I think I was on 85, so I would have been maybe around 12 years old. And I'm 31 this year. So you can count back what we're talking like 20 years ago now, which makes me sound old. But before, you used to be able to just get a key. Everyone would get a key to the track and you could just rock up whenever you want. You pretty much, as long as you signed up as a club member, you didn't need like any accreditation or anything like that. You had to be a club member, you paid, you got a key, and you can go and ride at the track whenever you want, as long as you keep the gate locked. And so what happened is there was actually some people there that I think they didn't have a license. Something happened anyway. There was people riding on the track that weren't racing people that shouldn't have been there. And so we were doing our practicing, and I'd come up to a jump and pulled over to where the flaggies stand. So I was on my bike, pulled right over off the track to where the flaggie would normally stand. And I was chatting to my dad because we were working on certain things. And so while I was sitting there, I'd been sitting there, goggles were off, I was chatting to dad about whatever. And this other rider that was there had come off the jump. So imagine this is like the up ramp of the jump. He's come off the face of the jump and literally gone across the up ramp like that. So the jump's going this way, but he's jumped off this way, and I'm over here with dad sitting on my bike facing this way. So he's jumped off the track. So there's where the track was, there was like a fence down the side and a pit. He's jumped off the track into the pit and gone head first into the fence and gone and had a seizure. But in the meantime, he's landed on top of me. So I was sitting on my bike like this with my hand up on my handlebars, and he's landed over the top of my, or the back wheel, or his bike has landed on top of my shoulder and pushed my arm like down, or landed onto it, or pushed it into the handlebars, and that's why it's snapped how it did. So that was a good period of time resting and recovering from that one. And then the third one was a swing accident. So we were actually at Busselton, ready to race the next day, and me and my brother were getting at it, arguing, and we're on the swing at wherever we were staying. And he was swinging on the swing, and I wanted to get on the swing, and he didn't want to get off. And share, maybe, I don't know, maybe he didn't want to share, can't even remember. But I stood in front of the swing while he was swinging on it, and I thought he would slow down or try and stop, but he did the opposite and went flying through me. So I fell over again and landed on my arm, and that was another broken arm. So that was the 3 broken arms within a space of a few years. Now, that's how they happen, but the real point of this video is the learnings that I got from those broken arms, how I tackled it, like with my training, with my riding, and some things that I should have done instead. So at that period of time, I was doing mostly swimming. Okay, so I was doing a lot of swimming training. So obviously when you've got a plaster cast on your arm, you can't go and swim because you're not allowed to get it wet. So my strategy for training was don't do any training, right? So I just didn't go swimming, didn't do anything. And then what would happen though, is over that period of time, so like some of the broken arm, like the 2 fractures were like 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. The one where I got landed on top of was like 4 months plus. Had to have surgery. It was a longer rehab process or recovery process. So each time I would get injured, what would happen is I would put my training on the back burner. Mentally, I was like, oh, I can't train. I've got a broken arm. I'm not riding. I'll have to wait till I get back riding so I can, start doing my training again. And so what would happen is whether I was doing the right right or wrong training is really irrelevant from what I'm trying to share. The point is I was building my fitness and strength and health and, trying to eat the right stuff over a period of time. So weeks, months and years. And I'm going to the gym or I'm going swimming and I'm eating the right stuff. I'm doing weights, I'm doing push-ups. I'm getting better and better and better. And so I'd progress like this. And then what would happen is every time I'd have a broken arm, I'd stop. All of those things that allow me to get to that level of strength and fitness, I would stop doing. So what would happen is over those 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, I would drop back and go back down to the bottom again. Because when you don't train, when you don't continue to build your strength and fitness, it goes backwards. You don't just keep it. It's not just there. It disappears. You go back to, your body adapts to what you stimulate it with. So if you're stimulating it with lots of weights and lots of fitness work, it's going to get fitter and stronger. If you're not stimulating it with anything, you just sit in the office all day, it's going to regress. Okay, you're going to have bad posture, you're going to be weaker, your level of strength and fitness is going to drop off. And so what would happen then is at the end of that, say 4-month block or 6-week block, whatever it is, now I've got to spend another 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, trying to rebuild just to get back to where I was before. So I lose, let's say for the big broken arm one, I lose 4 months because of the broken arm and not doing anything. But then I've got to take another 4 months after that just to build back to get where I was before. So overall, I've lost a period of 8 months there. And so even on smaller scale, some people get everyone gets little niggles and injuries. You might go riding and you fall off and you hurt your shoulder, you hurt your knee, you hurt your ankle. Those things always come up. But the problem is for me, I would always just take time off. And so again, every time you take time off, it takes that same amount of time or a similar amount of time to be able to rebuild just to get back to where you were. And so you lose a whole heap of progress. So, one of the things that I learned from CrossFit, so if you've watched some of my previous videos, you'd know that once I finished up riding and racing after the 14 years, CrossFit and CrossFit competing took over that space in my life. So everything was about training and eating well and going to bed early and, optimizing sleep and dialing in nutrition and dialing in training, making sure everything is perfect so I could do really, really well in these CrossFit competitions. One of the things that CrossFit taught me is how to train around injuries. Because if you do competitive fitness or you do CrossFit, you'll know that there are a lot of injuries in CrossFit. One of the things CrossFitters are really, really great at is working around injuries. They will always find a way to train because that is their sport. That's the thing they're trying to do. Okay, any CrossFitter or competitive fitness person that does even remotely well always has niggles or things that don't feel right with their body. They never feel 100%. So they're always working around something. But they're very, very good at finding ways to work around things without aggravating that area, but still make progress with their training overall. And that's something that I'd never even thought about with racing because everyone else in racing was the same. It was like, oh, you get injured, you take time off the bike, you take time on fitness, and then once you get back to it, you get yourself back into shape. But the thing is, it takes so long to you lose so much time getting yourself back into shape that it affects your riding and your progress of getting back into it as well. So I imagine for me, if I got back onto riding after, say, having 8 weeks off from a broken arm and I had all my fitness and strength there, I would have got back to my full speed and full ability much, much quicker. Much, much quicker. Because it would have just been bike skills I was trying to build. Rather than what I was trying to build is trying to build strength, trying to build fitness, trying to build bike skills and bike time all at the same time, which takes a longer period of time. So it was actually holding me back. So again, one of the things that CrossFit taught me is working around injuries. Okay, it's being able to always be in the mindset of, all right, I've got this injury or niggle. The last thing I want to do is make it worse. We definitely don't want to make it worse, and we don't want to train through the injury. But what ways do I have that I can use to train around this injury? So for example, like with my broken arms, heaps of stuff I could have still have done. I still definitely could have focused on my nutrition and food and had that all dialed in. Could have focused on losing some weight or cutting my food down so I didn't gain weight and make things worse for when I got back on the bike. But on the training side, heaps of stuff I could have done. I could have done like spin classes, could have gone on the cycling bike, could have gone on the assault bike and just used legs only or used one arm with 2 legs on the pedals. I could have done squats, like bodyweight squats. Heaps of things that I could have done to be able to improve. Could have done lunges, could have done squat jumps if it wasn't too painful for my arm. Heaps of different exercises, heaps of different machines, heaps of things that I could have done to be able to make some progress with my training that I just didn't do because my mindset was, oh, I can't do anything because I've got a broken arm. And at the end of the day, my broken arm is like the two bones that are broken in my arm and I'm writing off my whole body and going, my whole body can't do anything because I've got 2 broken bones out of all the hundreds of bones that we have in our body. So how we help our riders now is it's always about helping them to find ways to overcome the different injuries and challenges that they have, because it's not really a case of if they have them, it's when. They've either got previous injuries and things that have held them back that still hold them back to this day that need to be worked around. They've got things that might be current that they've got at the moment that are a problem that need to be addressed or worked around. Or they might have things might be okay now, but they have things that come up in the future where they go and ride and they're like, oh shit, like I bruised my ribs, or I've got my ankle caught in a rut, or I fell off and landed on my shoulder and my shoulder's sore. So for our guys, one of the things we pride ourselves on is the compliance with training. It's getting our guys training every single week, no matter what. And there's always ways to be able to train around things. Because again, we know the same mistake that I made with my broken arms is that every time someone takes some time off, then it takes that equal amount of time to be able to rebuild and just get them back to where they are before. And so physically, it can be done. It just takes a longer period of time, and who wants to spend more time recovering than what they need to? But secondly, mentally, it's a hard thing to do because you're like, shit, like I'm going to the gym and this used to be easy weight and now this is hard weight. This used to be my warm up, but now that's my working weight. Mentally, it's hard to be able to do it and make it happen and build the momentum again. So the other great thing about keeping things going is you keep yourself in routine, you keep the momentum going. That's the hardest thing with training, is getting started with training. That's often the hardest bit, is getting things going and building the momentum. So anytime you can keep the momentum up, then it's going to make things a little bit easier. So again, it's just a mindset that you need to adopt. It's not going, hey, like I can't do any exercise, I can't train this week because I've got a sore shoulder. It's like, no, you can train every single week. Unless you're stranded in hospital, okay, and bedridden for the week, then that's really the only excuse you've got for not doing any training. Other than that, there's always a way to train, to improve, to be able to get your body performing better, no matter the injury or niggle that you have. It's just the mindset that needs to change to go, hey, like, yes, there's heaps of things out there that I can do to get better. I've just got to find out what those things are and make them happen.